And there came a time known as the third millennium, a time when the people of the earth were ravaged by disease, pestilence, and poisons. A time when the horsemen of the apocalypse ran the multinational corporations. A time when America's citizens were waking up to a future of no money and no jobs. A time when a special man came forward, a man that your American taskmasters did not want you to see or hear, a man whom they took prisoner and hid away, a man whose name is Yahweh ben Yahweh. For telling people the truth, Yahweh ben Yahweh was taken prisoner by the minions of darkness. For giving people hope, Yahweh ben Yahweh was led away to Golgotha. This is the continuing story of the past and of the future, about good and about evil, about your life and what it will become. A story that tells why the so-called black man of America had to suffer for over 400 years. A story of what will happen to the so-called black man if he returns to the laws, statutes, judgments, and commandments of God, Yahweh. Olam shall Yahweh. The universe of Yahweh. Brought to you by the nation of Yahweh. Working for you and your future.
Good or evil, life or death. This is your choice in this, the year 6005, the year of judgment. Shalom and welcome to the universe of Yahweh. My name is Josiah Israel and I am your host. For over 7 years now, we have been discussing some of the things the Bible said would occur in the day of judgment. We warned you that the weather was going to change, and that the powerful forces of nature were going to bring terrible destruction upon America and the world, and that it was going to get worse and worse and worse, and it has. We alerted you that violence in the public schools was going to increase, and it has. We showed you in the scriptures that forewarned of wickedness in high places, and we are witnessing today gross misconduct and serious crimes being committed by some of our highest elected officials. What lies ahead for America and the world is nothing less than the proliferation of deadly diseases and plagues as foretold in the Bible. But there is hope. The Bible tells us that at the end, the Messiah would be revealed, and at that time, he would save the righteous from this impending destruction. That one, the Messiah, is Yahweh ben Yahweh. So we invite you to join us in the universe of Yahweh, featuring the commandments of Yahweh and the Messiah revealed. First, the commandments of Yahweh.
For 6,000 years, we have been suffering at the hands of rulers who transgress the laws of Yahweh and teach all people throughout the earth to transgress the laws of Yahweh. In order to have peace, love, and harmony upon the earth, we must return to keeping the commandments, judgments, laws, and statutes of Yahweh. All of us have been taught that the commandments, judgments, laws, and statutes in the Old Testament Bible do not count today. In this series, we will show you that the commandments, judgments, laws, and statutes in the Old Testament Bible do count, and that if we govern our lives according to these commandments, judgments, laws, and statutes of God Yahweh, then we will have peace and goodwill upon the earth forever. We invite you to study along with us. However, in order to do so, you must have the following tools: a King James Version of the Bible, several dictionaries, the New Strong's Exhaustive Concordance, a set of encyclopedias, Hebrew and Greek lexicons, a thesaurus, and a synonym finder.
Shalom. My name is Sarah Abigail Israel. We are discussing the commandments of Yahweh. The first two commandments ever given to man were given to Adam in the Garden of Eden, which were to dress it and to keep it. We are continuing our study of the second of these two commandments, which is to keep it. In Hebrew, the word keep is shamar, and one of its meanings is to be on the lookout for, or to be expectant of, the future birth of a child. Our pivotal point of discussion has been primarily on some of the things the Bible said would happen to this one child, the Messiah, Yahweh ben Yahweh, that would clearly identify him as the one promised to come in the Old Testament to deliver or restore the lost sheep of the house of Israel, the so-called black man of America, who are descendants of slaves, to the promised land. Let us review a little of what we discussed last week. Our discussion centered around why the chief priests and Pharisees feared the disciples of Yahweh ben Yahweh so greatly that they had to get a circuit court judge to impose onerous restrictions upon him to prevent his disciples from having any communication with him. We even asked the question, what could Yahweh ben Yahweh possibly say to his disciples after his release from prison that would cause the chief priests and Pharisees so much fear? We began to answer this question by examining the phrase, lest his disciples come by night, from another perspective. We defined the words his, disciples, and the phrase come by. From our research of these words, we learned that the reason the chief priests and Pharisees were so desperate for a circuit court judge to impose onerous restrictions upon Yahweh ben Yahweh to prevent him from having any communication with his pupils had something to do with Yahweh ben Yahweh's pupils succeeding in getting a native command of a language or linguistic rule. Now today, we shall continue to decode the definition of the word acquire, which means to achieve native command of a language or linguistic rule. Simply put, the fear of the chief priests and Pharisees of Yahweh ben Yahweh having communication with his disciples had something to do with the pupils of Yahweh ben Yahweh achieving a command of a native language or linguistic rule. Let us get an understanding of what this means by defining the next word in this definition, native. Documented in Webster's New World College Dictionary, 4th edition, copyright 1999, on page 959, native, an adjective, means belonging to a country by birth. Native also means stranger. We were born in America, but America is not our home, neither is English our original language or linguistic rule. However, this definition relates that the chief priests and Pharisees feared Yahweh ben Yahweh's pupils succeeding in getting a command of a language or linguistic rule belonging to this country in which we were born and in which we are strangers. Yahweh ben Yahweh taught his disciples or pupils associated with him that although the so-called black man of America was born in the United States and speaks English, his true nationality is Hebrew Israelite, and his native language is Hebrew. Because our forefathers broke the commandments, judgments, laws, and statutes of our God Yahweh, the God of the Holy Bible, then we, as Hebrew Israelites, were brought to a strange land as strangers and treated evil for over 400 years, according to Genesis chapter 15, verse 13, which reads, "And he said unto Abram, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years." Yahweh ben Yahweh also taught his disciples, or pupils, that we are the seed of Abram, whose name was changed to Abraham. Abraham was in Hebrew, which is found in Genesis chapter 14, verse 13, which reads in part, "And there came one that had escaped, and told Abram the Hebrew." After verifying that Abraham's nationality was Hebrew, Yahweh ben Yahweh then taught his disciples, or pupils, that Abraham's seed should sojourn in a strange land and be brought into bondage, which is written in Acts chapter 7, verse 6, which reads, "And God Yahweh spake on this wise, that his seed should sojourn in a strange land, and that they should bring them into bondage, and entreat them evil 400 years. Yahweh ben Yahweh did not leave it up to his disciples' imagination as to how our ancestors were brought to this strange land. He showed us in the scriptures, as in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68, and it reads, "And the Lord Yahweh shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there shall ye be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you." Yahweh ben Yahweh taught his pupils that they would not see old Egypt again, that the new Egypt, called Baby Land, America, is where we, the so-called blacks of America, would be sold as bondmen and bondwomen, meaning as slaves. Although we were sold as slaves, what did Yahweh ben Yahweh teach us concerning no man shall buy you? Join us next week, because we shall continue to break down this definition as we continue to decode Matthew chapter 27, verse 64, and resume our course of singling out the family of Adam from the perspective of the word watch and its relationship to keep. I bear witness to you today that the Messiah, Yahweh ben Yahweh, is here.
I bear witness to you today that the Mahdi is here.
I bear witness to you today that Shiloh is here. I bear witness to you today that the great light is here.
I bear witness to you today that the Grand Master of the Celestial Lodge, Architect of the universe, is here.
I bear witness to you today that the Enlightened One is here.
I bear witness to you today that the one all religions have been speaking of for almost 6,000 years is here.
Thank you for listening, and join us next week as we continue our discussion of the commandments of Yahweh.
The United States government has declared war against Yahweh ben Yahweh and the nation of Yahweh in its Project Megiddo report, released by the FBI in October 1999. Do you know that this is fulfillment of prophecy? It was prophesied in Revelation 12:7 that there was war in heaven. Michael, the Messiah, and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. In the government's report, the nation of Yahweh is labeled as extreme terrorists, accused of believing that white people are incarnate manifestations of evil. We are even accused of preparing for a race war and are practicing paramilitary operations, none of which are true. This is a divinely declared word war, whose end result was already declared from the beginning. Since war has been declared, read the Nation of Yahweh's battle plan called Operation Word War on the internet at www.yahwehbenyahweh.com.
Loading. One moment, please. The new Yahweh Ben Yahweh website now offers the latest in streaming technology to aid you in your study of the laws and teachings of Yahweh Ben Yahweh. Visit YahwehBenYahweh.com and learn about the Tetragrammaton, the meaning of the crucifixion, and how to keep the Sabbath. YahwehBenYahweh.com is your home for truth and insight. Read about Operation Word War and how you can work to balance justice. Shalom.
Yahweh Ben Yahweh is being denied freedom of religion. Yahweh Ben Yahweh is being denied freedom of association. Yahweh Ben Yahweh is being denied freedom of speech by the United States Parole Commission, which has blatantly disregarded the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, which says,
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
On June 1st, 2001, the United States Parole Commission, Department of Justice, ordered Yahweh Ben Yahweh to adhere to some of the most horrendous restrictions ever placed upon an American citizen. Here is just one of several onerous conditions the United States Parole Commission has placed on Yahweh Ben Yahweh upon his release.
You shall not associate or have any contact with members of the Black Hebrew group. This includes direct or indirect contact through any means, to include internet, television, radio, phone, written form, or in person. This includes residence, employment, social, or other activities without the prior written approval of your U.S. probation officer.
According to the Barron's Legal Guide Law Dictionary, copyright 1996 on page 100, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and it cannot be abrogated even in part by statute. Yet, the United States Parole Commission, an agency of the United States government, has itself violated the Constitution by imposing such restrictions on Yahweh Ben Yahweh. Not being permitted to associate and communicate with those who are Black Hebrew Israelites significantly infringes upon Yahweh Ben Yahweh's right to minister, to worship, and to freely assemble as guaranteed under the First Amendment. If the United States Parole Commission executes this mandate, it will erode the constitutional rights of all Americans, regardless of race, creed, or color. More of your constitutional rights shall be taken away if we do not contest the action the United States Parole Commission has taken against this one man, Yahweh Ben Yahweh. To see how, visit our website at www.yahwehbenyahweh.com.
Most people are not aware of the fact that America is in the Bible. She is cryptically called Babylon, Revelation 18:2. In 1986, Yahweh Ben Yahweh sent the president, vice president, his cabinet, every senator and congressman the book Yahweh Judges America, which warned them of the inevitable destruction of America. This book explains all that the prophets said would come upon America in the day of judgment. You can now read what Yahweh Ben Yahweh told the government over 10 years ago. To get a copy of Yahweh Judges America, call the number on your screen today.
Who is worthy? Who is worthy to open the book? Who is worthy to open the book and loose the seals thereof?
And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. At the end of time of evil rule, the Anointed One, the Messiah, shall appear. In 1979, Yahweh Ben Yahweh came to Miami and became the spiritual leader and founder of the Nation of Yahweh. Although he took a vow of poverty, in 7 years he guided the nation to amass a $250 million empire. Under his direction, the Nation of Yahweh has grown to encompass disciples, followers, and supporters in over 1,300 cities within the U.S. and 16 foreign countries. Yahweh Ben Yahweh is bringing about changes in the lives of individuals and is giving the world the keys to success in life, politically, economically, educationally, socially, and spiritually.
Ye shall find. The word find in Luke chapter 2 verse 12 is a symbol, figure, or image. It is also a comparison, simile, or allegory. The word find metaphorically means to find out by inquiry, investigation, research, study, and analysis. Find by definition means to learn, realize, and master. The word find also means to discover, discern, uncover, and bring to light. Luke chapter 19 verse 48 makes it clear that those who do not accept Yahweh Ben Yahweh will not be able to find what they might do to understand the cryptic words of the scriptures. On the other hand, those which worship Yahweh hear Yahweh Ben Yahweh, whose heart Yahweh opens to understand all things. Acts chapter 16 verse 14. The rulers of today, with all of their degrees, are asking, what is truth? John chapter 18 verse 38. The chief priest and officers in government do not know the truth of Yahweh. So when they saw the mighty works of Yahweh Ben Yahweh among the lost sheep of the house of Israel, the so-called black man of America, they cried out, saying, crucify him through judicial murder in U.S. courts. John chapter 19 verse 6. And though they found no cause of death in Yahweh Ben Yahweh, yet they desired that he should be slain through judicial murder in U.S. courts. Acts chapter 13, verse 28.
Remember that this is the morning of the third day, and I shall rise again. I am the resurrection. All of prophecy tells you that I shall rise again. It's all about that. Luke chapter 2, verse 34. No doubt about it. Again, I love you forever, bless you forever. I remind you once again, my associates are children of the light. That just brings laughter to my heart, to my soul, to realize that at last I have those of you that love peace. And I only want to be in the presence of those of you that love peace. I love you forever. Shalom Aleichem.
The rulers of today, with all of their knowledge, are asking, what is truth? Isaiah chapter 59, verse 14 says, "For truth is fallen in the street." However, we have been blessed to discover that Yahweh is the spirit of truth. And when we worship Yahweh and hear Yahweh ben Yahweh, then Yahweh will open our hearts to understand the truth about all things. Praise Yahweh. Thank you for joining us in the universe of Yahweh. And now we'd like to invite all of you to pray with us as we turn to the east with outstretched hands and say a prayer to our Heavenly Father, Yahweh, the Lord's Prayer in Hebrew. Come, let us pray. Tefillah, Ave Nu Shabbat Shemayim, Yikar Deshemeaka, Tavo Malkuteaka, Yase Razonka, Kivashemayim Keng Ba'aretz, Et Lekam Kukenu, Tain La Nu Hayom, Uslak La Nu, Ar Kartienu, Kimo Shesol Kim, Gamanaknu, La Koteum Lanu, Veal Tefienu, Lade Nisayom, Kim Kal Senu, Min Hara, Kilaka, Hamumlaha, Veha Givera, Veha Tiferet, Leolame, Olamin Sila. We thank thee, O Yahweh, O living and eternal King, who has so mercifully restored our souls within us. Selah. Praise Yahweh, and always remember that the Father Yahweh and His Son Yahweh ben Yahweh love you, and your host loves you too. Shalom Aleichem.
To order the companion book to the series, The Messiah Revealed, call 1-800-967-PEACE. That's 1-800-967-7337. And when you call, ask about the special discount on the Key to Heaven charity. Videos of this program are available. When ordering, please refer to the program number on the screen.
You can now access the divine mind of Yahweh ben Yahweh on the internet at the address on the screen.